Hello. I want to talk about my artwork and practicing gratitude. So, I have art projects at this house and also at the other house. At the other house, I have my art project that I'm working on right now that's called my wish box. And it is beautiful. Okay, it's coming along. It's almost finished. And I started an art project upstairs here in this house, and that is called the Tesla Space Shuttle. And that's absolutely gorgeous. It consists of paper mache molds that were in packaging stuff as packaging materials that were holding tools or something for Paul that he ordered. And I always tell him to reserve those for me, like these egg carton paper mache type of moldings that are sometimes in packages to hold some kind of machine in place and stuff like that. I already have, as you can see in the background, I have those on the wall. Some of those are awesome. And so I took a bunch of those and I attached them onto a cardboard box. And then I thought, oh, that looks interesting. That looks like sci-fi, And so that's why I called it the Tesla Space Shuttle. And it's very colorful, and that will take me a couple of months because that's quite a big project. It's quite large and it has lots of niches and crannies and little caves and stuff like that. And so I have to get in there. I paint with cotton swabs. So I've talked about this before in my videos. I haven't talked about that recently, but I want to bring this up again because I think it's important that we paint with cotton swabs instead of with brushes, because the brushes you have to wash under the faucet, and then the acrylic paint goes into the drain, it goes into septic tanks, it goes into water treatment facilities, sewer plants, and there it might also leach into the groundwater. It's just not environmentally safe. Those local communities that we're in, particularly the one at the other house, they're highly corrupt. They don't clean the wastewater good enough. It goes back into the ocean, not very purified, okay, and then it causes pollution, and people put all kinds of stuff into their gray water and into the toilets. And that can end up, toxic stuff that can end up in watersheds and in rivers and streams and underground water tunnels and in the ocean, okay? And that's absolutely unacceptable. So I live as green as I can. I really make an effort in this, and that's why I paint with cotton swabs, because the cotton swabs, they're cheap, of course, and they're very efficient. It's amazing how efficient they are. I can paint very quickly with them. I can apply layers of paint very quickly, much quicker than you would think with just the little tip of the cotton swab. But as you paint, the cotton loosens up, then becomes fanned out more, and that can cover a surface with paint very quickly. And also in the beginning, when it's still firm, it can do a lot of precision work, like precision work that you would do with a very fine brush. So it's very versatile in that way. And once the cotton kind of flocks out and there are cotton strings that are coming off, or the whole cotton tip falls off, then you can lay it on the table where you're painting, and it can dry for one day, and then you can just put it in the trash can, and it doesn't pollute anything. It doesn't have to be washed, so that's really, really nice. And also, I never have to clean a brush while I'm working, so I never cross-contaminate the colors. I take a new cotton swab, I dunk that into one of my jars. I use all of my Play-Doh jars and the generic Play-Doh jars that are about this size, like half a cup size actually. And I mix my own paint up. I put the paint into those, and the lid is pretty firm on it, so it stays fresh in there. It's really amazing. And so I just open the lid, I put the cotton swab in it, and I apply the paint. As you can see here, it needs this particular painting here. I worked on this for a very long time, and whatever you see, that's not something that I immediately perfectly draw. Like when I draw something on there with cotton swab and acrylic paint, it's really a raw sketch first. I don't use any other pencils or stuff. I just apply the acrylic paint and I just scribble something on it, and I experiment with that, and then I create flower patterns or something like this, or a face, and then it becomes more and more refined as I work on it. So I use my eye measure for this, of course, and then I just go over it again and again with color applications. And once I have the shape perfect the way I want it, like this flower behind me, then I just go over it again and again and again. Like people will paint the outer body of a car, for example. I mean, they do it with spray paint. I never work with spray paint, but I do many, many, many color applications over and over and over again. So like 10 to 20 color applications. So on every color that you see, there's that many color applications on it to make it really saturated. Also, when I paint my fingernails, I use 3 color applications, which brings out the color much better, much stronger. It looks nice. So, but with the acrylic paint, I can use up to 20 color applications, and then it becomes very, very saturated and very, very gorgeous and wonderful. So that's just how I personally work. I also usually don't mix the colors up, or I usually don't have colors that fade into each other or that create some kind of dirty mix or something. So I usually have them very distinguished from one another. So they're very almost cartoonish type of. That's why the work by Takashi Murakami resembles my work a little bit, and I didn't know about him when I was already painting like this. I didn't even know about him yet, and then I saw his work behind the sculptures by Mike Fields. And Mike Fields is a real nice guy, nice artist, amazing. And he even writes back to people on YouTube, which is really cool. Even writes back a few times, so those are always really cool people. When they're famous and they write back a couple of times, that's really, really, I find that very, very nice that they take time to talk to the average person who comes along. We're all special, and they know that, and I appreciate that very much. So Mike Fields and Ben Goertze, who wrote me back many times, and he is so busy. That's a computer programmer, and he works on AI. So that's really cool, to write back like this. So, or Henry Rollins, to write back to the people that adore him, So it's really, really nice of those people to do that. I really appreciate that. So, but I was already painting like this, and then I saw in the YouTube videos, so Mike Fields, I guess Mike Fields has filmed his artwork in the gallery, in one of the galleries. And he was walking around there and filming he has these kinetic sculptures that move. Absolutely fantastic. And behind his amazing sculptures, I see these flowers like those. And many flowers, and I didn't know someone else made flowers like that. A cartoonish type of, And so I thought, wow, no, what a flower bed painting behind those. And I asked Mike Fields, whose paintings are those? And he wrote back and he said, those are the paintings by Takashi Murakami, famous Japanese artist. I would say number one now among all modern artists. And I was so grateful that I came across his work, that I came across both of these people. And so I checked them out, I researched them, and I'm absolutely delighted about Mike Fields' work and Takashi's work, and they're very different in the way they design, but their designs are kind of complementary and they go very well together. So Mike Fields is very technological, very metallic, very futuristic, and Takashi's work is very cartoonish and very pop art. And yeah, they look good together in those big large rooms of the gallery. And that's really my dream, to one day make paintings that are that size, they'll be like, that would cover an entire wall that is like double story and extremely wide. So that would be awesome, if I have the opportunity one day to be working like this. But so for now, I don't have those type of studios. I don't have the materials for it. I mean, I could buy these kind of styrofoam plates and then put them together. This one I had to, this was one, but I had to cut it into two because this was like 8 feet long and it didn't fit into the van, so it was sticking out, so we had to cut it in two. But that's okay, so It's still one painting, but in two. It's like a duplex, as I call it. So, but one day I want to make like an octagon or something. Put 8 of those styrofoam plates that are 8 feet by 5 feet or something. Put them together and hang that up as one big mural type of artwork. So that would be really nice. And so yeah, I always liked working like this with this type of style. And it's interesting that I work like this, and then there's someone else who works like this as well. So, and I didn't even know about him. So really cool. And he's even a couple of years older than I am. So that's very interesting, that I've always been fascinated with this, with some kind of, we get inspired by some people, and when we grow up, we might get inspired by some artists. And I was definitely inspired by artist Nikki de Saint-Phal. Her name is Nikki as well. And half French, half US American artist. And she made these very, very large women, abstract women, with flower power patterns, also flowers a little bit in that direction, but quite into this cartoon direction, but still more hippie, still more like not as completely defined in the shape, in this, I don't know how to explain this, with this contrast, between two colors. It was still a little bit more hippie style, because that's also the era where she comes from, of course. But she was definitely influencing me. But then later on, I didn't know about Takashi, and then it happened to form itself into this style. So gradually, very gradually. And I think that there's some kind of, they call it morphogenetic fields, where someone could be creating something or thinking something or writing something in a specific way, in a specific style, and some other people very far away who didn't see the work of one person, can be inspired, literally inspired. Inspire, spirit. Inspirited, basically, is what inspired means. So they can literally be inspired by this morphogenetic field of the work of someone halfway around the globe. And I find that very interesting. So that there's like the law of attraction, and there's some kind of like synchronicity that happens, and within this synchronicity field of this morphogenetic field, there's some kind of vibration happening there, subatomically, okay? And that can inspire someone into painting in a specific way, I guess. So it's hard to say who inspired who, really. I don't know. Maybe Takashi inspired me with this morphogenetic field. So because he's older than I am, and he's been working on that longer, and probably I would guess, in this specific type of like the multiple color applications, and the very defined contrast between the colors and the defined contours of any specific object or shape that I create. So, but definitely my blue god, of course. Nobody else. Some people have told me that it resembles Mayan or Incan ancient cultures. So, from Native American people in South America who have been artists and who have created kind of like paintings that go into, that are also, I don't like the word spiritual, so that are also going into adoring nature and the sun, and going into a religious direction also. Trying to depict something that is outer worldly. And that's true, I've seen some of those ancient works, and they do resemble my artwork a little bit. And I think there again, there's some morphogenetic field happening, and some inspiring, through vibrations of subatomic particles. Helena Petrovna Blavatsky talks about these subatomic particles already in 1880, long before scientists ever got to that kind of subject. And so, long before people even debated on this, she knew that when we get into subatomic particles, at some point it goes over into what she calls the ether. And the ether is not physical. Okay, and that's what's so interesting about all of this. So a thought, a thought itself, it's really something abstract, but it's really something in the ether. So a thought has a vibration, and that can be picked up, and it can be created by the brain cells, by the neuronal connections. They can create this vibration, and that vibration is ether, and it can go out there, and it can travel very far. So I think that's very, very interesting stuff. So artwork, true artwork, when the person who paints something really paints with love. I don't even want to say just true artwork is only modern art, then this is much more complex than that, of course. So modern art, that's pure passion and pure love, of course. But someone can also paint a landscape with love and passion, or horses, or anything that they see around them a vase with flowers in it, you know. If they really feel these flowers and paint them, then there's love and passion in it. And that's what true art is, when there's love and passion in it, and gratitude. And that's why art and gratitude go together. Real art is gratitude. Deep gratitude. And when you are in a state of deep gratitude, you are in an artistic state. You can sit out there in the garden, you can have a deep gratitude for the trees or the flowers or the animals around you. And in this state of gratitude, you are tapped in, you're tuned into the infinite, and that's the artistic state. Okay. It's very nice. And that's being in the now. And that's breathing with the now. Okay. And that's not a thinking process in the sense of thinking that most people are usually doing when they're thinking about, how am I going to plan this? How am I going to do this in the future? What if this happens? What if that happens? That has its place, but it should be done out of love and gratitude as well. And when we do planning out of a calm mental state of gratitude and peace of mind, then we find the better solutions. There's always incredible solutions for every problem. When we're in that calm state, then we find the ultimate solutions for things. But what Jiddu Krishnamurti is talking about with David Bohm, when they're talking about not thinking, what they mean is this mental state of pure perception. When I sit in nature and I breathe and I have love and passion and compassion for all the life around me, or the landscapes, or the rocks, or the sky, then I'm not in this overthinking or in this neurotic thinking state. Okay, and that's what they're talking about when they say that they just call it thinking. So, but there are many different forms of thinking, of course, So, but that's what they mean, is when people are overthinking, really. What if, and when there's anxiety that goes into it. That we need to let go of completely. And we need to get grounded physically and mentally in nature. And then not do any of this overthinking. I mean, that can happen too, but then you bring yourself back to the now moment and you say to yourself, this was overthinking, has to do with my neurosis, my childhood trauma, my anxiety, and so on. Let go of it. You can let go of it right now for an hour or two. don't have to figure out how to fix this or that. You can just say no to someone. You know, my brother and I, my whole family, they have this problem with saying no. And I catch myself with that a lot. But it's gotten better. So, because I'm really consciously working on this. I also have an inner rebel, of course, that went against the neurosis of my family, of my parents, and their indoctrination. You know, they were partly consciously but usually unconsciously indoctrinating us with their neurosis. And my inner rebel said, "No way! I'm not going to accept that they can't say no." For example, yeah. So no, I had to learn to say no. I had to learn to stand up for my boundaries. That's very, very important for our well-being, for our sanity. We have to say no sometimes. And when we're in nature and we're getting grounded, sitting on the ground, grounding with that energetic field from the earth, that's electromagnetic. This is very, very real. Okay, this has been scientifically studied. That's very important for our immune system, to get grounded, to not be disconnected from the earth with our rubber shoes all the time. Or in the house, we're not really grounded. We sit on a couch that's synthetic. It's not grounded. That's why we have to go outside as much as we can and sit on the ground outside, on the grass. Very important. So when we're outside, we can feel this now moment and the gratitude. Okay. And we can accept being in that now moment and not have to try to figure out how we're going to be living in the future, or how we create our money or our livelihood and so on. A lot of people are very caught up with a very strictly indoctrinated pattern of you're supposed to do this, but you're supposed to watch sports. Don't you watch sports? I hear people say to me. I say no, I don't. I want nothing to do with competition and hierarchy and greed and all of these things. Earlier I was out there and someone had a real loud radio on with terrible music. I had to get up and leave. And then I went back out later, and then it was relatively quiet, and that was good. And I could hear the animals. You know, those people, they live here in this beautiful area, and then they turn this radio up with shrill music, and it's almost they're not attuned. They're in this. They're living in some kind of indoctrination bubble or something, where they don't even see the things that are really meaningful, that are really healthy for them. They don't see it because they're so indoctrinated, they're so conditioned by everything that has to do with hierarchy, and competition, and work, and greed, and what society dictates to them that they're supposed to do or be. That's very neurotic and unhealthy, how most people are living their lives and how they are thinking and how they constantly compare themselves to other people. We don't have to compare ourselves to anybody. You're already precious just the way you are. Okay? You don't have to compare yourself to Elon Musk. Okay? Just appreciate him, appreciate his work, appreciate this Buddha level. Okay? He's here to help us. So let's feel deep gratitude, infinite gratitude. I have infinite gratitude for him and for Ingrid Newkirk and Paul Watson and all of these amazing people. Okay? There are some amazing people. Let's not measure ourselves with them or try to compete or something. Just appreciate them. They're here to help. Okay? We're all different, okay? And you are infinitely precious, and you're unique the way you are, okay? And you're perfect. When you're in a very neurotic state, that's a very detrimental state. That's not who you really are. Who you really are is that inner child. Okay? That inner child has that gratitude. Okay? Before you were conditioned by your dad to think that you have to act like a man or act like a lady or whatever these people mean by that. They indoctrinate you, and then you think you have to fulfill that role that society has given you, the specific role pattern that feeds back into old school Hollywood Hallmark movies, military, and all of that. The corporate agenda, basically. That's why it took people so long until finally some jester or clown here or there came and said, wait a minute, the emperor has no clothes on, or wait a minute, this isn't going anywhere, this is neurotic. And then other people were, yeah, true, it's actually neurotic. So let's appreciate the things that are really important, okay? And that's nature, life, the life around us, and our own life, our own cells, okay? The animals around you, the plants around you, your own environment, the forests, the oceans that we depend on for oxygen, our own cells. Okay, let's appreciate all of these things. That's what matters. Okay, not sports or competition or greed. What really matters is now, the now moment in nature, getting grounded and feeling infinite gratitude for all beings. Okay? You guys take care. Bye bye.